foreign policy, détente with the Soviet Union, relations with China, shuttle diplomacy in the Middle East. Kissinger helped shape Nixon's policy in Vietnam and negotiated an end to the war, famously declaring success prematurely, just days before the 1972 election.
We believe that peace is at hand.
He was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize.
Nothing that has happened to me in public life has moved me more than this award.
Though his co-recipient, North Vietnam's Le Duc Tho, declined the honor. 4 years later, President Ford awarded him the Medal of Freedom. He was a master of pragmatic, big-picture diplomacy, but he had his critics, who described him as manipulative and insecure. Some called him a war criminal for his role in bombing Cambodia and widening the war in Vietnam. Born in Germany in 1923, Kissinger's Jewish family fled to America as Hitler rose to power. He became a U.S. citizen, served in World War II, and earned a Ph.D. at Harvard, where he became a professor. He caught the eye of Richard Nixon, who made him National Security Advisor, then Secretary of State, the only person ever to hold both jobs simultaneously.
There is no country in the world where it is conceivable that a man of my origins could be standing here next to the President of the United States.
But their relationship was complicated, and White House tapes reveal that Kissinger sometimes enabled the worst in Nixon.
It was a very curious relationship because we were not personally very close.
The night before he resigned in disgrace, Nixon asked Kissinger to kneel and pray with him.
And of course it was a crushing event, but I think of that evening as an experience with dignity, and it was very moving.
Kissinger was no faceless bureaucrat. He was a world-renowned celebrity.
I loved your foreign accent.
And he loved the spotlight. He was even something of a pop culture icon. After leaving government, he opened his own consulting firm, remaining active and sought after for decades. At 95, eulogizing John McCain's life, Kissinger sounded a wistful note about his own.
Like most people of my age, I feel a longing for what is lost and cannot be restored.
Henry Kissinger was a man of great accomplishment and controversy. But as he once told NBC's Barbara Walters, he had no regrets.
If I had to do it over again, I would do again substantially the same way, which may make me unreconstructed, and maybe one reason why I'm at peace with myself.
Lester Holt, NBC News, New York. Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.
World, and what mark did it leave on him? More than a decade ago, we travelled to his guest house near New York for a rare sit-down interview. For the first time, Henry Kissinger agreed to an in-depth conversation about his life and legacy. During difficult times throughout history, US leaders have always relied on the advice of wise men, especially men with experience leading the country into war. The nation was reeling after the attacks on 9/11, but how would it respond? Then US President George W. Bush consulted Henry Kissinger. For years, Kissinger had come and gone through the doors of the White House, and there he had changed the course of history.
The president's got to be thinking strategically in order to shape events. And Henry Kissinger is a very good strategic thinker. He's made a career of being a strategic thinker. He's got a mind that works strategically. I see him regularly.
US troops attacked Iraq. The invasion into this faraway country was disastrous. Was a swift withdrawal the answer? Once again, Bush turned to Henry Kissinger for counsel. Kissinger advised, "Don't give up. The US must win this war."
I think you can learn a lot from history. The key is for a president not to get stuck in the past. One can learn from an experienced hand about how to deal with today's current problems. And Henry Kissinger's had a lot of experience.
Henry Kissinger had the hard lessons of the Vietnam War to reflect back on, how it all began. US leaders believed they were in a global war. Back then, the war wasn't waged in the name of terror and radical Islamists. The enemy at the time was communism.
What led us into Vietnam was to apply globally the principles that had been successful in Europe. It was the theory that if you could stop communist aggression, you then could build democratic societies and you could stop communism. And there was also the theory that communism was determined to overthrow the non-communist world.
In the mid-1960s, the United States divided the world into friends and foes. Americans treated the precarious situation like a game of dominoes. If just one piece were to fall, just one nation, the next two would fall until they all did.
That was the so-called domino theory, that if we who had become engaged in Vietnam against a far-flung communist attack on South Vietnam and maybe in the whole region, that if we pulled out and just let it happen, that other countries would be absorbed into the Soviet or the communist international system.
They believed still in the late 60s, erroneously as it turned out, that there was sort of a unitary communist world out there, that the People's Republic of China and the Soviet Union were conspiring together with other communist countries. Therefore, they really looked upon how the extraction from Vietnam was to take place as being absolutely vital to the national interests of the United States.
Henry Kissinger was no stranger to states that wanted to rule the world. He grew up in Germany, in the Franconian town of Fürth. He was a Jewish child living under an anti-Semitic tyrant.
I sort of took it for granted that Hitler Youth boys could beat us up on the street and that there would be signs that Jews are Juden unerwünscht.
Him for his alleged involvement in war crimes, support for dictators, and a disregard for human rights. In this video, we will delve into 17 shocking facts about Henry Kissinger, shedding light on the intriguing and contentious aspects of his career. Fact number 1. Early life. Dr. Kissinger was born in Fürth, Germany, on May 27, 1923, came to the United States in 1938, and was naturalized a United States citizen on June 19, 1943. He received the BA degree summa cum laude at Harvard College in 1950 and the MA and PhD degrees at Harvard University in 1952 and 1954 respectively. Number 2. The accused war criminal. Henry Kissinger has faced accusations of war crimes and human rights violations during his time in office. Critics argue that his involvement in controversial policies and decisions, such as the secret bombing campaigns in Cambodia and Laos, resulted in significant civilian casualties and devastation. These allegations have sparked intense debates and raised questions about his ethical conduct. Number 3. Nobel Peace Prize controversy. Despite his controversial reputation, Kissinger was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1973 for his role in negotiating a ceasefire during the Vietnam War. However, this decision ignited widespread controversy, with many questioning the validity and credibility of the prize. Critics argue that honoring Kissinger with the prestigious award contradicted the principles of peace and justice, given his alleged involvement in questionable actions and policies. Number 4. Involvement in the Vietnam War. Henry Kissinger played a pivotal role in shaping U.S. foreign policy during the Vietnam War. He supported intense bombing campaigns, including the notorious Christmas bombings of 1972, which caused substantial civilian casualties. Critics argue that his approach contributed to the protraction of the conflict and hindered diplomatic efforts for a peaceful resolution. Number 5. Support for dictators. Kissinger's realpolitik approach led to alliances and support for dictators known for their repressive regimes. He backed figures like Chile's Augusto Pinochet and Argentina's Jorge Rafael Videla, raising serious concerns about human rights abuses and the undermining of democratic processes in those countries. Number 6. Covert operations in Latin America. Kissinger was involved in covert operations in Latin America, supporting the overthrow of democratically elected governments. Notably, he played a role in the coup against Chile's President Salvador Allende, which led to Pinochet's rise to power. These actions had far-reaching consequences, including the perpetration of human rights violations and political instability in the region. Number 7. Alleged involvement in assassinations. Numerous allegations have surfaced suggesting Kissinger's involvement in authorizing or having knowledge of assassination plots against political figures. While these claims remain unproven, they have contributed to his controversial reputation and fueled ongoing debates about his role in covert operations and intelligence activities. Number 8. Role in the Nixon administration. As National Security Advisor and later Secretary of State under President Nixon, Kissinger held significant power and influence. However, his association with the Watergate scandal and subsequent controversies tarnished his legacy, raising questions about his integrity and decision-making. Number 9. Controversial bombing campaigns. Kissinger's support for intense bombing campaigns during the Vietnam War, such as Operation Rolling Thunder, resulted in a staggering number of civilian casualties. The ethical implications of these bombings remain a subject of intense debate, with critics arguing that they caused immense suffering and undermined America's reputation. Number 10. The secret bombing of Cambodia. Kissinger authorized the secret bombing of Cambodia, known as Operation Menu, without the knowledge or approval of Congress. This clandestine campaign aimed to destroy North Vietnamese sanctuaries but resulted in the deaths of thousands of innocent Cambodian civilians. The covert nature of the operation and the devastating consequences it had on the Cambodian people further fueled the controversy surrounding Kissinger's actions.
You mentioned that India conducts its foreign policy as the British Empire used to, that is to say, with quite a clearly demarcated zone about which it cares. Can we hope, can we suppose, that China will restrict itself to the zone to which it has historically restricted itself, that is to say, Asia and the Pacific most directly related to China? Is that a fair hope?
Well, we can't know.
We can't
exactly, but what we can say a number of things. One is that it has never happened that a country grew at a rate of 10% a year indefinitely. Secondly, the Chinese population, partly as a result of the one-child family, is producing a demographic problem of its own. And it's very likely that China will become old before it becomes rich, that a larger and larger percentage of its population has to look after old people. Then you have the problem of a country that on the coast is like, let's say, Western Europe, and its interior highly underdeveloped, And at any one point, there are about 100 million Chinese on the road looking for jobs. So you cannot project this as a world power that is going to be eager to project its power abroad. I think we have a number of decades in which we can see whether we can build cooperative relationships with China and the United States in such a way that it becomes second nature. Because it'd be a tragedy if Chinese nationalism and maybe some provincialism on our part produced a situation in which the two most significant countries in terms of economy were clashing with each other, because one outcome might be like World War I in Europe, that we drain each other for the benefit of third parties.
So it's avoidable.
We have to try to avoid it.
All right.